The morning started like any other for Alex Rodriguez. As a combat medic with 12 years of experience, he had seen enough broken bodies and desperate situations to last several lifetimes. But nothing could have prepared him for what he would find in the remote mountains of Peru that day. Alex and his small humanitarian team had been traveling for 3 days, bringing medical supplies to isolated villages hit by recent earthquakes. The narrow mountain paths were treacherous, and their jeep could barely handle the rocky terrain. His teammate Jake was driving while Dr. Helen Morrison, a volunteer physician, sat in the back organizing their medical kit. "There's something strange up ahead," Jake called out, squinting through the dusty windshield. What they saw defied explanation. A massive crater had been carved into the mountainside, as if something enormous had crashed from the sky. But this wasn't like any plane crash Alex had ever seen. The edges of the crater were smooth, almost polished, and there was a strange blue glow emanating from the center. "We should report this," Dr. Morrison said nervously, reaching for her radio. But Alex was already climbing out of the jeep. Military training had taught him to assess situations quickly, and something told him that whatever was down there needed immediate attention. The glow was pulsing, like a heartbeat getting weaker. "Alex, wait," Jake shouted, but Alex was already making his way down into the crater. At the bottom lay something that looked like a spacecraft. But unlike anything from Earth, its surface was smooth and organic looking, like it had been grown rather than built. Parts of it were transparent, revealing complex patterns inside that seemed to shift and change as he watched. The craft had been split open on one side, and through the opening, Alex could see movement. Someone was inside, and they were in trouble. He squeezed through the gap in the hull and found himself in a space that felt impossibly larger than it should have been. The walls glowed with soft light and the air hummed with energy. Of that faded when he saw her. The being lying on what appeared to be some kind of medical table was clearly not human, but she was beautiful in a way that took his breath away. Her skin had a translucent quality and was covered in patterns that glowed like starlight. But that glow was fading fast, flickering like a candle in the wind. She was dying. Alex didn't need to understand her biology to recognize the signs. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. Her pulse, when he found what seemed to be a pulse point on her wrist, was erratic. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she was running out of time. "Can you understand me?" he asked softly. Her eyes fluttered open, and Alex felt something he had never experienced before. It was as if lightning had struck him, but instead of pain, there was connection. Her eyes were large and silver, and when she looked at him, he could somehow sense her desperation, her fear, something else, hope. She tried to speak, but the sounds that came out were unlike any language he had ever heard. It was musical, almost like singing, but filled with urgency. She reached out with one trembling hand and touched his arm. And suddenly Alex could feel her emotions as if they were his own. She was afraid not for herself, but for her people. She was carrying something important, something that could save them. But she was dying, and with her would die the last hope for her world. Alex had made split-second decisions before in combat zones, but never one like this. Every piece of medical training told him this was impossible. Can't give a blood transfusion to an alien being. You don't even know if their biology is compatible. It could kill them both. But looking into those silver eyes, feeling her desperation, through that strange connection, Alex knew he had to try. "Okay," he whispered more to himself than to her. "Let's do this." His field medical kit contained everything he needed for emergency transfusions. He had done this procedure dozens of times for wounded soldiers, but never for someone whose biology was completely unknown. His hands shook slightly as he prepared the equipment. The being seemed to understand what he was doing. She nodded weakly and extended her arm, revealing veins that glowed faintly under her translucent skin. Alex found a spot that looked similar to a human vein and carefully inserted the needle. Her blood was unlike anything he had ever seen. It flowed like liquid starlight, with tiny points of light that moved through it like living galaxies. For a moment, he wondered if he was making a terrible mistake, but then he looked at her face again, saw the trust in her eyes, and pushed forward. He connected the tubing to his own arm and watched as his red human blood began to mix with her. Cosmic essence. The effect was immediate and shocking. The patterns on her skin began to glow brighter. Her breathing steadied. But more than that, Alex felt something happening to himself. It was as if doors were opening in his mind that he never knew existed. He could suddenly sense things beyond the normal human range, the electromagnetic fields. Around the spacecraft, the life force of small creatures moving in the rocks outside. Most powerfully, the thoughts and feelings of the being beside him. Her name was Kira. She was from a world called Alturas, far beyond Earth's solar system. She wasn't just any alien. She was a princess. But more than that, she was her planet's last hope. Her world was dying, their sun failing. She had been sent across the impossible distances of space to find help. But the journey had nearly killed her. Her people's biology required certain elements that didn't exist on Earth, and without them, she'd been slowly fading away. Alex's blood shouldn't have been able to help her, but somehow it had. More than that, it had created something entirely new. As the transfusion continued, both of them began to change. Alex could feel his perception expanding, his awareness growing beyond anything he had thought possible. Kira, meanwhile, was not just recovering, but transforming. The mixture of their blood was creating something unprecedented, a bridge between two completely different forms of life. When it was over, they both lay exhausted, but alive. Kira's glow had returned to full strength, but it was different now. Warmer, more human somehow. Alex felt different too, as if he could sense the universe in ways he never had before. "Thank you," Kira said, and Alex realized with shock that she was speaking perfect English. "You have saved not just my life, but the future of both our worlds." Outside the spacecraft, Jake and Dr. Morrison were calling for him, their voices growing more worried. Alex knew that everything was about to change for him, for Kira, and possibly for all of humanity. But as he looked at this remarkable being, whose life he had saved, he felt no regret. Sometimes the most important decisions we make are the ones that come from the heart, not the head. And sometimes a single act of compassion can change the course of history itself. 3 weeks had passed since Alex saved Kira's life in that mountain crater, and nothing would ever be the same again. They were now in a secure medical facility, but it felt more like a prison than a hospital. Scientists in white coats came, and went at all hours, running test after test, trying to understand what had happened between a human medic and an alien princess. Alex sat in his sterile room, staring at his hands. They looked normal, but he could feel energy flowing through them that wasn't there before. Every morning when he woke up, he knew exactly how Kira was feeling, even though she was in a room 3 floors below him. Right now, she was frustrated, and a little scared, just like he was. "This is impossible," Dr. Chen said, looking at the latest test results. She was the lead scientist on their case. A woman who had studied biology her entire life, but had never seen anything like this. "Your blood work shows traces of elements that don't exist on Earth, and the brain scans. It's like you have new neural pathways that formed overnight." Alex nodded. He had felt those changes happening. Sometimes he would know things he had never learned, understand concepts that should have been foreign to him. And the dreams, they weren't his dreams at all. They were Kira's memories. "Where is she?" Alex asked, for the 100th time. "I need to see her." "That's not possible, right?" "Now," Dr. Chen replied, though her expression was sympathetic, "the government officials are concerned about the connection between you two. They're worried it might be dangerous." But what the scientists didn't understand was that separating them was what was truly dangerous. Alex could feel Kira's distress. Growing stronger each day, they were kept apart, and his own body was starting to reject the separation, but had headaches that felt like lightning bolts. And sometimes his vision would blur, and he would see things through Kira's eyes instead of his own. Late that night, Alex was lying in bed when suddenly the pain hit him like a truck. It wasn't physical pain, it was emotional agony so intense it made him cry out. Kira was in trouble. He tried to call for help, but his voice wouldn't work. Instead, he found himself reaching out with his mind, the way he had learned to do since The transfusion, Kira? What's happening? Her voice came back to him, not through his ears, but directly into his thoughts. They're trying to separate us completely. They think the connection is making me weak. But Alex, it's killing me. Without our bond, I can't survive. Alex felt his own strength draining away. The connection wasn't just emotional or mental. It had become biological. Their life forces were intertwined now, and trying to break that link was slowly destroying them both. The next morning, both Alex and Kira were in the medical wing, unconscious and fading fast. The doctors were panicking because nothing they did seemed to help. It was Dr. Morrison, Alex's teammate from the mountain expedition, who finally convinced them to try something different. Put them in the same room, she insisted. Whatever. This connection is fighting it, is making them both sick. When they wheeled Alex's bed next to Kira's, the change was immediate. Both of their vital signs stabilized, and within hours they were awake and talking. I was so scared, Kira whispered, her hand finding Alex's. When they touched, both of them glowed faintly her with her natural starlight, and him with a warm golden aura that was completely new. Me too, Alex admitted. But I think I understand now. We're not just connected, we're becoming something new together. Over the following days, as they were allowed to spend time together, the full extent of their bond became clear. Alex could access Kira's memories of her home planet Alterus, and she could experience his memories of Earth. But it was more than just sharing thoughts. They were sharing souls. Through Kira's memories, Alex saw Alterus as it used to be. A world of crystal cities that sang in the wind, where the people lived in harmony with nature and technology. He felt the pain of watching their sun begin to die, the desperation as their planet grew cold and dark. My people sent me here because I'm young and strong, Kira explained as they sat together in the hospital garden. But also because I carry something special in my genetic memory. The location of a new world, where both our species could live together. But the information is locked, and it can only be accessed through a complete bond with another consciousness. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. You mean like what's happening between us? Exactly like what's happening between us. Kira's silver eyes were serious. But Alex, unlocking that information means our bond will become permanent. We'll never be able to live normal lives again. I'll be tied to Earth through you, and you'll be tied to the stars through me. The weight of this responsibility was enormous. Alex thought about his life before his work as a medic. His small apartment, his quiet existence helping people one at a time. All of that would be gone forever. But then he felt Kira's emotions flowing through their connection. Her people were dying. Children on Alterus were growing weak as their world grew colder. Entire cities were being abandoned as the failing sun could no longer support life. How long do they have? Alex asked. 6 months, maybe less, Kira replied. And Alex could feel her heart break as if it were his own. That night Alex lay awake thinking about everything. He could feel Kira's presence in his mind, could sense her trying not to influence his decision. She wanted him to choose freely, even though that choice would determine the fate of 2 entire worlds. Through their bond, he experienced more of her memories. He saw Altarian children learning to make music with light, watched lovers dancing on air currents between floating cities, felt the deep peace of a civilization that had learned to live without war or hatred. But he also felt their despair as everything they had built began to crumble. Families saying goodbye as evacuation ships left for unknown destinations. Scientists working desperately to find solutions that seemed impossible. And then Alex saw something else in Kira's memories. Hope. Her people had advanced technology that could heal diseases, clean polluted environments, and provide unlimited clean energy. If Earth and Alterus could work together, both worlds could become better than either had ever been alone. The next morning, Alex found Dr. Chen in her office. I want to do it, he said simply. Whatever it takes to unlock the information Kira carries, I'm ready. Dr. Chen looked up from her computer, her expression grave. Alex, you understand what this means? The bond between you and Kira will become permanent. You'll essentially become 2 parts of the same person. Alex nodded. I understand. But doctor, we're not just talking about saving one planet anymore. We're talking about creating something completely new. A partnership between species. That could change everything. As if sensing his decision, Alex felt a warm wave of gratitude flowed through his connection with Kira. She was 3 floors away, but she might as well have been right beside him. Besides, Alex added with a small smile, I don't think I could live without her now anyway. She's become part of who I am. The decision was made, and both Alex and Kira knew that their greatest adventure was just beginning. The procedure to unlock Kira's genetic memories was unlike anything the medical team had ever attempted. Alex lay on a special table next to Kira, their hands intertwined as dozens of monitors tracked their vital signs. The room was filled with both human technology and Altarian devices that Kira had taught them to use. Are you ready? Dr. Chen asked, her voice filled with concern. Once we begin, there's no going back. Alex squeezed Kira's hand and felt her squeeze back. Through their connection, he could sense her nervousness mixed with hope. We're ready, he said. What happened next was beyond anything Alex could have imagined. As the Altarian technology activated, his consciousness merged completely with Kira's. Suddenly, he wasn't just Alex Rodriguez, the combat medic from Earth. He was also Kira, Princess of Alteris, holder of ancient memories that stretched back thousands of years. He saw Alteris in its full glory, not just through Kira's childhood memories, but through the experiences of her ancestors. Crystal cities that reached toward the stars, powered by the harmonious energy of their people working together. Forests of living light where the trees themselves were conscious beings that shared wisdom with anyone who listened. But the most incredible thing wasn't the beauty of Alteris. It was the feeling of being truly connected to everything around him. On Alteris, consciousness wasn't trapped inside individual bodies the way it was on Earth. The Altarians could share thoughts, motions, and even physical sensations with each other, creating a network of understanding that made war, hatred, and loneliness impossible. This is what we could create. Kira's voice echoed in his mind. Not just for my people, but for yours too. Alex felt the truth of it. Through their bond, he experienced what it would be like if humans could truly understand each other the way Altarians did. No more conflicts based on misunderstandings. No more loneliness or isolation. People working together because they could literally feel each other's needs and dreams. But then the darker memories came. Alex lived through the slow death of Alteris, feeling the fear and desperation as their sun began to fail. He experienced the heartbreak of families being torn apart as evacuation ships left for distant worlds. Not knowing if they would ever see each other again, the genetic memories went deeper, showing him the location of the new world, a planet the Altarians called Synthesis. It was perfect for both species, with resources that could support human industry and Altarian technology. But getting there would require a journey across space that no human had ever made. When the process was complete, both Alex and Kira lay, exhausted but changed forever. They were still themselves, but they were also something entirely new, a bridge between two species that could never be broken. The coordinates are unlocked, Kira whispered. But Alex, now that we know where Synthesis is, we have to make the hardest decision of all. Over the next few days, world leaders gathered to discuss what had been discovered. The president herself came to meet with Alex and Kira, along with scientists, military officials, and representatives from dozens of countries. You're telling us that there's a planet out there that could support both human and alien life? The president asked, her expression serious. More than that, Alex replied. Synthesis has resources that could solve Earth's energy problems forever. The Altarians have technology that could cure diseases we've never been able to treat, but it's not a one-way deal. They need our biological diversity, our adaptability, our way of thinking differently about problems. General Rodriguez, no relation? 2. Alex leaned forward. And what would this partnership require? Kira spoke up, her voice clear and confident. A permanent exchange. Some humans would come with us to Synthesis to help establish the new colony. Some of my people would remain on Earth to maintain the connection between our worlds. Right, but most importantly, Alex and I would need to travel to Synthesis to serve as the living link between our species. The room erupted in arguments. Some officials saw this as the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to expand human civilization to the stars. Others worried about the risks of trusting an alien species, no matter how peaceful they seemed. "Guarantee do we have that this isn't some kind of trick?" asked Dr. Phillips, skeptical scientist who had been studying Kira since her arrival. Alex felt anger flare up, both his own and Kira's. But through their bond, he also felt her wisdom, her understanding that fear was natural when facing the unknown. "There are no guarantees in life," Alex said calmly. "But I've seen Kira's memories, felt her people's emotions. They're not conquerors, they're refugees. They're scared, just like we are. But together, we could build something amazing."
What?
Debate continued for hours, but eventually, a decision was reached. Earth would send a small group of volunteers to Synthesis, led by Alex and Kira. In exchange, a group of Altarians would remain on Earth to begin sharing their technology and knowledge, but the most difficult part was yet to come. Alex had to say goodbye to his old life. His sister Rita came to see him the night before departure. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, drinking terrible coffee and trying to pretend this wasn't the last time they might ever see each other. "Don't understand why it has to be you," Rita said, tears in her eyes. "Can't someone else go? Someone without family, without people who love them here." Alex reached across the table and took her hand. "Rita, I'm not the same person I was a month ago. The bond with Kira isn't just some connection. It's who I am now. I can't live without her, and she can't live without me. But more than that, I've seen what's possible. I've felt what it's like when people truly understand each other. I can't walk away from the chance to create that for everyone." Rita squeezed his hand. "Will I ever see you again? I don't know," Alex admitted. "But if this works, if we can establish the colony and create the partnership between our worlds, then maybe someday you can visit Synthesis. Maybe your children can grow up in a universe where Earth and Alturas are friends, where humans can travel to the stars." The next morning, Alex stood with Kira and 15 other human volunteers as they prepared to board the Altarian ship. Craft had been repaired and was now large enough to carry all of them on the journey to Synthesis. Alex looked back at Earth one last time, thought about his apartment, his job at the hospital, the small life he was leaving behind. But then he felt Kira's hand in his and saw the future through their shared vision. On Synthesis, they would build cities that combine human creativity with Altarian technology. Children would grow up learning from both species, becoming something new and wonderful. The partnership between Earth and Alturas would grow stronger each year, until the boundary between human and Altarian became meaningless. "Ready?" Kira asked, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the ship. Alex smiled, feeling more ready than he had ever felt in his life. "Let's go build the future." As the ship lifted off, Alex felt no sadness, only excitement. He was no longer just a medic from Earth. He was a pioneer, an explorer, a bridge between worlds. And the greatest adventure of his life was just beginning. The Altarian ship was nothing like Alex had imagined. From the outside, it looked like a giant crystal that had been shaped by wind and time. But inside, it was alive in ways that defied human understanding. The walls pulsed gently with soft light, and the floors felt warm beneath their feet, as if the ship itself was breathing. "Welcome to the Starweaver," Kira said, her voice filled with pride. "She's been my people's home for the past 6 months of their journey to Earth. Now she'll take us all to Synthesis." Alex looked around at his fellow human volunteers. There was Dr. Lisa Park, a botanist who wanted to study alien plants. Tom Bradley, an engineer fascinated by Altarian technology. Angela Foster, a teacher who dreamed of creating schools that could educate both human and Altarian children. Each person had their own reason for leaving Earth behind, but they all shared the same mixture of excitement and terror. The Altarian refugees were equally nervous about the humans joining their ship. Through his bond with Kira, Alex could sense their emotions. They were grateful for the help, but worried about whether two such different species could really live together peacefully. "How long will the journey take?" asked Dr. Park, running her hands along the living walls with scientific curiosity. 3 months in your time measurement, replied Zarel, an elderly Altarian who served as the ship's guide. His skin patterns glowed with wisdom accumulated over centuries. But the journey will change all of us. Humans and Altarians traveling together for so long, it has never been done before. The first week was the hardest. Alex felt constantly dizzy as his body adjusted to traveling faster than light. The human volunteers struggled with the ship's systems, which responded to thought and emotion rather than buttons and switches. The Altarians found human unpredictability confusing and sometimes frightening, but slowly things began to change. Alex and Kira served as translators, not just of language, but of culture and understanding. When Tom got frustrated because an Altarian tool wouldn't work for him, Alex helped him understand that he needed to approach it with calm intention rather than forceful determination. Think of it like meditation, Alex explained. Reads your emotional state. If you're angry or impatient, it won't respond. Tom tried again, this time breathing deeply and focusing on his desire to help rather than his frustration. The tool immediately came to life in his hands, its crystal surface glowing warmly. That's incredible, Tom whispered. It's like the machine actually cares about my intentions. All Altarian technology is designed that way, Kira explained. We believe that tools should enhance harmony, not create conflict. As the weeks passed, the barriers between the two species began to break down. Angela started teaching English to young Altarians. They taught her to communicate through patterns of light. Dr. Park worked with Altarian botanists to understand how plants on synthesis would grow, sharing earth techniques while learning about living ecosystems that existed nowhere else. But the most amazing changes were happening to Alex. His bond with Kira continued to deepen during the journey, and he found himself developing abilities he had never imagined possible. He could sense the emotions of everyone on the ship, human and Altarian alike. More than that, he could help ease tensions when they arose, serving as a bridge of understanding. You're becoming something new, Kira told him one evening as they stood in the ship's observation deck, watching stars streak past at impossible speeds. Not just human, not just connected to me, but a true mediator between worlds. Alex felt the truth of her words. He was changing in ways that went beyond the physical. His thoughts moved differently now, considering not just immediate problems, but long-term harmony. He found himself thinking like both a human and an Altarian, seeing situations from multiple perspectives simultaneously. The other humans noticed the changes too. When conflicts arose between volunteers, they instinctively turned to Alex for help. When someone felt homesick or scared, his presence somehow made them feel calmer and more hopeful. How do you do it? Angela asked him after he had helped resolve a disagreement between two engineers. When you talk to people, it's like you really understand what they're feeling. I think it's because of the bond with Kira, Alex replied. I'm learning to feel what others feel, to see through their eyes. It's not magic, it's just a different way of connecting with people. Halfway through the journey, they received a message from Earth. The Altarians who had stayed behind were already making incredible progress. They had shared medical technology that was curing diseases doctors had fought for decades. Their energy systems were beginning to reverse climate change. Best of all, more humans were volunteering to make the journey to synthesis on the next ship, but they also received troubling news. Some people on Earth were afraid of the changes happening too quickly. There were protests in major cities, with people demanding that the Altarians leave. Fear was spreading faster than understanding. Change is always scary, Kira said when she saw how upset Alex was by the news. My people went through the same thing when we first learned we would have to leave Alteris. Some wanted to fight the dying of our son rather than accept that we needed to find a new home. What if this doesn't work? Alex asked. What if the fear wins over the hope? Through their bond, Kira shared her memories of the moment her people had to make their final decision to leave their dying world. The fear had been overwhelming, but so had the courage of those who chose to take the risk. Then we make sure our new colony on synthesis becomes proof that this partnership can work, she said. We build something so beautiful, so successful, that even the most frightened people on Earth will want to be part of it. As they entered the final month of their journey, Alex began to feel a pull unlike anything he had experienced before. Through Kira's enhanced senses, he could actually feel synthesis calling to them across the vast distance of space. The planet was alive in ways that Earth wasn't, with a consciousness that welcomed both human creativity and Altarian harmony. "The planet is singing," Kira explained when she saw his wonder. "Every world has its own song, but synthesis sings in harmonies that both our species can understand." The human volunteers had formed strong friendships with their Altarian fellow travelers. Tom was working with Altarian engineers to design cities that would use both human architecture and Altarian organic technology. Dr. Park had discovered that Altarian plants could actually communicate with Earth plants, creating ecosystems richer than either world could produce alone. Angela was most excited about the children they would eventually have on synthesis, not just human children or Altarian children, but new beings who would grow up truly understanding both cultures from birth. "They'll be the first generation to never know a universe where humans and Altarians were separate," she said with tears of joy in her eyes. "They'll create things we can't even imagine." On the last week of their journey, Alex stood with Kira at the ship's bow, watching as a new star system came into view. One of those points of light was synthesis, their new home. "You ready to become colonists?" Kira asked, squeezing his hand. Alex thought about everything they had learned during the journey. The humans had become more understanding and empathetic. The Altarians had learned to appreciate human spontaneity and innovation, and he himself had become something entirely new. A being who could truly bridge the gap between two very different forms of life. "I'm ready to become builders of the future," he said, feeling more certain than he had ever felt about anything in his life, as synthesis grew larger in their view. Alex knew that the real adventure was just beginning. They weren't just traveling to a new world, they were creating a new way for intelligent beings to live together. And he couldn't wait to see what they would build. The first sight of synthesis took Alex's breath away. As their ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, he saw a world that looked like someone had painted Earth's most beautiful places with starlight. Crystal formations jutted from emerald. Forests, while floating islands, drifted lazily through skies that shifted between purple and gold. "It's incredible," whispered Dr. Park, her face pressed against the observation window. "Look at those trees, they're actually glowing. The whole planet is alive," Kira explained, her silver eyes bright with excitement. "Not just the plants and animals, but the rocks, the water, even the air itself. Everything here is connected, in ways that don't exist on either Earth or Altaris." When they landed, Alex felt the planet's consciousness touch his mind through his bond with Kira. It was like being welcomed by an old friend who had been waiting for their arrival for thousands of years. Synthesis wanted them here, both humans and Altarians together. The early days were challenging in ways none of them had expected. The human volunteers were used to building things by cutting down trees and digging up rocks. But on synthesis, the planet itself seemed to resist any action that caused harm to the living ecosystem. "The hammer just bounces off," Tom said in frustration, trying to drive a nail into what looked like ordinary wood. "It's like the tree is fighting back." Zarel, the elderly Altarian guide, chuckled softly. "Softly, you must ask permission. Before you build, the planet will help you, but only if you work with it instead of against it." Alex watched as Zarel placed his hands on the tree and began to hum in the musical Altarian language. Slowly, the tree began to reshape itself, creating perfectly smooth planks that could be used for construction without any cutting or damage. "The planet is teaching us," Alex realized. "It wants us to learn a better way to live." As the weeks passed, the colony began to take shape in ways that amazed everyone. Human creativity combined with Altarian harmony to create buildings that grew from the ground, like plants, but had all the functionality of modern technology. Streets flowed like rivers of light, connecting homes and workplaces in patterns that felt natural and beautiful. Dr. Park made an incredible discovery when she tried to plant Earth vegetables in synthesis soil. The alien Earth didn't just accept the seeds, it enhanced them. The tomatoes that grew were twice as large and 3 times as nutritious as anything on Earth, while still tasting exactly like the tomatoes she remembered from her grandmother's garden. "The planet is learning from our plants," she explained excitedly to the group. It's taking the best qualities of Earth life and making them even better. Angela started the first school on synthesis, and it was unlike any educational the institution that had ever existed. Human children from the second wave of colonists learned alongside young Altarians, but the planet itself served as their greatest teacher. When they studied mathematics, crystal formations would demonstrate geometric principles.
When they learned
About biology, living forests would show them how different species worked together, but the most amazing students were the hybrid. Children, those born to parents where one was human and one was Altarian. Alex and Kira's first child, a daughter they named Luna, could communicate with both species from birth. She could speak human languages and Altarian light patterns with equal fluency. But more than that, she could actually talk to the planet itself. Mama. Synthesis is happy today, Luna said one morning when she was barely 3 years old, her skin glowing with soft patterns inherited from her mother. It wants to show us something special. Luna led them to a grove where new trees were growing, trees that looked like a perfect blend of earth oak and Altarian crystal wood. The planet was literally creating new forms of life that combined the best of both worlds. She's not just our daughter, Alex said in wonder, watching Luna laugh as the tree branches lowered to let her climb. She's the future of what both our species can become. Back on Earth, the changes continued to spread. The partnership with the Altarians had solved the energy crisis, healed damaged ecosystems, and opened up possibilities for medical treatments that seemed like miracles. More importantly, the cultural exchange was changing how humans thought about conflict and cooperation, the Altarian way of making decisions, through shared consciousness, was being adapted in human communities. Crime rates dropped dramatically. In cities where people learned to truly understand each other's emotions and needs, wars became almost impossible when leaders could literally feel the pain their decisions would cause to others. But the real transformation was happening in the children. Young people who grew up learning both human and Altarian ways of thinking were solving problems that had stumped scientists for generations. They approached challenges with both human determination and Altarian wisdom, creating solutions that neither species could have found alone. We're getting reports from all over Earth, Alex told Kira, as they sat in their garden on synthesis. Watching Luna play with her younger brother Kai, whose human features glowed softly with Altarian light, the children who are learning both cultures are becoming incredible innovators. They're designing clean energy systems, developing new medicines, even creating art that moves people to tears. Kira smiled, her hand finding his. Through their bond, now deeper than ever after years of shared experiences, Alex felt her contentment and hope. That was always the real plan, she admitted. Not just to save my people or find a new world for yours, but to create something better than either of us could be alone. Alex looked around at their colony, now a thriving city that blended seamlessly with synthesis's natural beauty. Human engineers worked alongside Altarian biotechnicians to create transportation systems that ran on pure harmony with the planet's energy fields. Artists from both species collaborated on sculptures that told stories in both light and sound. Farmers grew food that could nourish both human and Altarian biology. Do you ever miss your old life on Earth? Kira asked, though she already knew the answer through their connection. Alex thought about his small apartment, his job at the hospital, the simple existence he had lived before that day in the mountains when everything changed. That life seemed like it belonged to a different person now. Sometimes I miss the simplicity, he said honestly. But I wouldn't trade this for anything. Look what we've built together. Their children ran past, chasing a creature that looked like a cross between a butterfly and a star, laughing in voices that carried both human joy and Altarian music. Other children joined them, some fully human, some fully Altarian, but all growing up in a world where those differences were just interesting variations rather than barriers. The best part, Alex continued, is knowing that this is just the beginning. Luna and Kai and all the other children, they're going to build things we can't even imagine. They're going to travel to other worlds, meet other species, and keep expanding this idea that different forms of life can create something beautiful together. Years later, As Alex grew older, but remained connected to Kira and the ever-growing network of consciousness that linked their colony. He often thought about that moment in the crashed spacecraft when he had made the decision to share his blood. With a dying alien princess, he had been trying to save one life. Instead, he had helped create a new form of civilization that was spreading across multiple worlds. Ships regularly traveled between Earth and Synthesis now, carrying people, ideas, and dreams in both directions. Other alien species had made contact, drawn by the success of the human-Altarian partnership, but the thing that made Alex happiest wasn't the grand achievements or the technologies that seemed like magic. It was the simple moment each evening when he and Kira would sit with their children and grandchildren, sharing stories and dreams while the planet itself listened and learned. The warrior who had shared his blood with a fading alien princess had become something he never could have imagined, a grandfather to the future. A bridge between not just two species, but between all the possibilities that opened up when beings chose love over fear, cooperation over conquest. And as the suns of Synthesis set each night in colors that had no names in any Earth language, Alex knew that the greatest adventures were still ahead of them all.